Hurricane Opal has made landfall on the Gulf Coast of Florida. It wasn't a Camille. It could have been, but it weakened, fortunately, just in the nick of time. Thanks for tuning into the Weather Channel Forecast Center. I'm Mike Seidel from Atlanta. In a moment, we'll check in live from the Gulf Coast with Bill Keneely. But first, we're getting some preliminary damage reports in from the Pensacola area. And so far, damage has been relatively light. A few trees have been uprooted. The EMA reported quite a few trees down in the county, in Mobile County, and some road damage on Dolphin Island and possibly Bayou La Batre, which is west of the Mobile area. And in addition, the Saraland fire station has been unroofed and several stores had windows blown out. So far, around the Pensacola area, damage relatively light. That's some pretty good news. Fortunately, Opal weakened from a Category 4 to a Category 3 hurricane before making landfall. There it is on our infrared. You can see the brighter reds now onshore, moving into south central Alabama. In a moment, we'll show you radar. We also have several tornado warnings out. We've had wind gusts in Ozark, Alabama, nearly 100 miles an hour with sustained winds to hurricane force, and that's in southeastern Alabama, a long way from the coast. So we've got a long night ahead of ourselves in points north, especially Atlanta and Birmingham through the early hours of Thursday morning. We've been talking with Bill Keneely all day long. He's been in the thick of it in Pensacola. Fortunately, Bill, the hurricane made landfall to your east, so you didn't get those hurricane force winds like we saw up to 144 miles an hour.
Right, Mike. Escambia County, I think, fared pretty well out of all this. We have reports coming in now that there's about a 50% power outage here in Escambia County, and like we said earlier, there's some power within a couple of miles of our location, and reportedly there's no power between here and I-10, which is only about 3 miles away. But once again, if you remember last night and this morning, we were down on the beachfront, and that is still Escambia County on the barrier island. And we've had reports now, and it's not good news coming in from Pensacola Beach. Reports that the pier that we were shooting in our background earlier, that now supposedly is no longer there. And also the police department has a temporary trailer. They're building a brand new facility down there. Reports of that trailer has also been that it has been demolished. Mike?
And Bill, it would make sense that areas along the beach and to the east over towards Fort Walton and Panama City getting the worst of the storm surge and the highest winds. Now earlier today, what was the situation there where you are in Pensacola as far as the wind and the rainfall?
Okay, Mike, again, we were trying to get out as fast as we could, and once again, we had to go about 10 miles to get up to I-10, and during that stretch, the minute we crossed over the big Pensacola Bay Bridge, we ran into traffic and serious tie-ups on Interstate 110, which gradually works its way up towards I-10. We decided to go off by the Pensacola Airport. It's getting very windy, by the way. And then we headed over to US Highway 29, a tremendous amount of flooding. This area has had incredible rainfall the past 24 hours, and I think that is the big difference. As you mentioned, the damage is not that bad, but with Aaron, we had a lot of wind damage. With this hurricane, at least here in Escambia County on the mainland, it has been all the rainfall, and believe me, I think we're going to tally up a foot of rain before it's all said and done.
And Bill, that will be the problem tonight and tomorrow, points north, all that tropical moisture riding up through the Appalachians. We'll be checking back with you in the next 30 minutes for more reports and checking on that damage force there in western Florida in the Panhandle. Back here in the Forecast Center, let's go for the latest from the National Hurricane Center in Miami. As of 7 Central Daylight Time, the hurricane is now on shore about 50 miles north-northeast of Pensacola. Sustained winds are still at 125 miles an hour. And notice it's still really racing to the north-northeast at 22 miles an hour, making a beeline towards at least Atlanta and points west. And like I mentioned, in Ozark, Alabama, winds have gusted to 100 miles an hour. Hurricane warnings are still up from the mouth of the Mississippi over to Anclote Key, and still those tropical storm warnings, although where you have the center come on shore and to the west, like around Mobile and points west of there, we had an offshore wind component, so that pushes the water away from the coastline and really saves you from a real big storm surge. And in Tampa, St. Pete, watch out, still some wind. You're under a tropical storm warning for at least the next several hours. The other story besides the wind is the rain and the tornadoes. We've had numerous twisters quickly touching down and coming back up. Tornado watch is up until 1 a.m. Eastern time, that's midnight Central time, in two areas. One with the eye wall, that's moving through Alabama in towards northwest Georgia. The other watch area is in Florida through the peninsula. I want to show you some radars to indicate what's going on. Now you can see this time-lapse photography with the radar. You can see the rain and the rain bands now pushing up towards Birmingham and Atlanta, the eye wall coming on shore, but notice the clearing back to the west. It's going to be a pretty nice day tomorrow along the areas which are getting pounded now. That sunshine will really come back out and give you a good day to clean up. Now, as we go in closer, let's take a look at some of these brighter colors. And we want to tell you we have a tornado warning out now in southern Alabama for some of these counties. This area right in here, this is very dangerous weather. Twisters coming down, fortunately touching down, coming back up. In Butler County, Covington County, and Crenshaw County, a tornado warning until 8:45 this evening. You can see how it's drying out nicely around Panama City and the areas which took the full brunt as it came on shore several hours ago. Now, as we move farther north, you'll see the other rain band, and this is a very heavy rain band too, which put down twisters earlier today, stretching from around the Birmingham area south of Atlanta, and this is rotating up towards Atlanta right now. We've already had some people evacuating along Peachtree Creek in Atlanta, expected to crest at 22 feet later on tonight. And this eye wall down on the bottom of your screen is moving in that direction. So we could have a long night ahead of us with tropical storm force winds. We could have wind gusts to 70 miles an hour in the metro Atlanta area. And our last stop takes you to Florida. And some of these outer rain bands spiraling around from the periphery of Hurricane Opal, moving through the area. Watch out in Orlando, Melbourne, Vero Beach. These bands are all moving up in this direction, and there is severe weather and possible tornadoes with that tornado watch continuing. So a long night ahead of us with tornadoes, rainfall, and tomorrow the big story will be the heavy rain moving up through the Appalachians anywhere to the north. Wind and rain will be following that too. How about your weekend forecast and the rest of the current weather? Let's check in with Janetta Jones.